Here's a list of the top 10 hardest haircuts to master based on technical difficulty, precision, and the level of skill needed to execute them flawlessly. These haircuts challenge even experienced barbers and stylists. 1. Skin fade, bald fade. Ever wondered why a perfect skin fade can cost you more at the barbershop? Let me tell you why this popular haircut is actually one of the most challenging styles to master. Picture this, starting from completely bare skin at the bottom, transitioning seamlessly into longer hair up top. Sounds simple, right? Well, that's where most people get it wrong. A skin fade is like creating the perfect sunset gradient in hair form. It requires incredible precision and years of practice. What makes it so tricky? Unlike regular haircuts where you can hide minor mistakes, a skin fade leaves absolutely no room for error. Every millimeter counts. One slight slip of the clippers, and you've got visible lines that stick out like a sore thumb. Too aggressive with the fade? You'll end up with patches that look like tiny crop circles on your head. Trust me, I've seen countless attempts where uneven gradients turn what should be a smooth transition into a choppy mess. It's why even experienced barbers sometimes take extra time with this cut. They know that rushing a skin fade is like trying to paint a masterpiece blindfolded. So next time you're in the chair getting that crisp skin fade, remember, you're not just paying for a haircut, you're paying for precision artistry that took years to perfect. 2. Disconnected undercut. Let's talk about one of the most challenging yet stylish haircuts in modern men's grooming, the disconnected undercut. You know the one, where the top stays long and full while the sides are buzzed super short, creating that dramatic contrast that turns heads. Now here's why barbers sometimes break a sweat when clients request this style. That sharp transition between the lengthy top and the short sides? It needs to be absolutely perfect. We're talking about creating a clear, deliberate line that looks intentional, not like someone accidentally went too short with the clippers. The biggest challenge lies in maintaining that perfect balance. Too much weight on top, and your head looks like a mushroom. Too short on the sides, and you've got yourself a Mohawk wannabe. And don't even get me started on that transition line. One slight slip of the hand, and you've got an uneven, jagged edge that screams, amateur hour. But when done right, man, it's a thing of beauty. The key is finding a skilled barber who understands head shape, hair texture, and most importantly, how to create that clean, crisp disconnect that makes this style so iconic. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just a haircut, it's an art form that demands precision, experience, and a steady hand. 3. Pompador with fade. The Pompador with fade, the hairstyle that's been turning heads since the 1950s. Think Elvis Presley meets modern-day swagger. But let me tell you, achieving this look isn't as simple as just swooping your hair back and calling it a day. What makes this style particularly challenging? Well, it's like trying to build a skyscraper with hair. You need 3 key elements working in perfect harmony. Volume that defies gravity, structure that could withstand a windstorm, and fades so clean they look like they were crafted by a mathematician. The styling process? That's where most people trip up. You might think you've got it down, but one wrong move with your brush or too much product, and suddenly your majestic pomp looks more like a deflated balloon. Getting that perfect height and shape requires serious technique. We're talking precise blow-drying angles, the right amount of product, and hands that know exactly what they're doing. And don't even get me started on the common mistakes. Ever seen a pompadour that's completely flat on one side? Or one that's got more waves than the ocean when it should be smooth? That's what happens when the structure isn't properly built from the ground up. The truth is, a perfect pompadour with fade is like a work of art. It takes practice, patience, and a whole lot of hairspray. But when you nail it, man, there's no hairstyle that commands more respect. 4. Textured crop, French crop. Hey there, fellow barbers. Today, let's talk about one of the most requested yet challenging cuts in our industry, the textured French crop. Trust me, I've seen many stylists struggle with this one, including myself when I first started. You know what makes this cut so tricky? It's like walking a tightrope between chaos and control. On one side, you're creating this beautifully messy, choppy texture up top, but then you need to balance it with those crisp, clean lines around the fringe and sides. It's literally a game of contrasts. Let me tell you about a common disaster I've witnessed, stylists going too heavy-handed with the texturizing. Next thing you know, the client's walking out looking like they've got a thick, bulky helmet on their head. Or worse, they go too aggressive and end up with hair that's flatter than yesterday's soda. Here's the thing about texture. It's not just random snipping. Each point cut, each slice needs to have intention. Think of it like creating a piece of art where every stroke matters, and that fringe, it needs to be precise enough to frame the face while still maintaining that effortless, lived-in look. But when you nail it, Oh boy, it's pure magic. You've got this perfect balance of edgy texture and clean sophistication that makes the French crop such a timeless favorite. Just remember, patience and precision are your best friends with this cut. 5. Scissor-only taper. Let me tell you about one of the most challenging techniques in barbering, the scissor-only taper. It's like trying to paint a masterpiece while blindfolded, but with much higher stakes because, well, hair doesn't grow back instantly. Picture this. You're standing there with just your scissors, no clippers, no safety net. Every snip has to be perfect, especially around those tricky areas like the ears and neckline. It's like performing surgery with scissors, where precision isn't just preferred, it's absolutely essential. You know what makes most barbers break into a cold sweat? The thought of creating those perfectly seamless transitions using just scissors. One wrong move and boom, you've got visible lines that stick out like a sore thumb. And don't even get me started on keeping both sides perfectly even. It's like trying to draw identical circles freehand. Sounds simple until you actually try it. The real kicker? When you're working on that taper, there's no room for second chances. Cut too much and you can't exactly glue it back on. Cut too little and you'll end up with a chunky, uneven fade that screams, amateur hour. But here's the thing. When done right, a scissor-only taper is pure artistry. It's the mark of a true master barber, someone who can create that perfect gradient without relying on any power tools. It's old school, it's challenging, and that's exactly what makes it so special. 6. Burst fade mohawk. All right, barbers, let's talk about one of the most challenging yet eye-catching styles out there, the burst fade mohawk. Trust me, I've seen many experienced barbers sweat over this one. Picture this. You've got a client in your chair, excited about getting that perfect burst fade mohawk they saw on Instagram. Looks simple enough, right? Well, not so fast. This cut is like trying to paint a perfect circle freehand. It takes serious skill and precision. The real challenge? You're basically creating two different haircuts in one. That curved burst fade needs to flow naturally around the ear, tapering perfectly into the skin. But here's where it gets tricky. While you're focused on that smooth fade, you've got to keep that mohawk looking sharp and defined. One wrong move and you can kiss that clean definition goodbye. And let's talk about symmetry, because both sides need to be identical, like mirror image identical. The burst needs to curve at exactly the same angle on both sides, or your client's going to be walking out with a hairstyle that looks like it's having an identity crisis. But when you nail it, man, there's nothing quite like seeing that perfect burst fade mohawk come together. It's definitely worth mastering, even if it means spending extra time perfecting those curves and keeping that mohawk crisp. 7. Flat top. Ever wondered why barbers charge extra for a flat top haircut? Let me tell you why this seemingly simple style is actually one of the most challenging cuts in the game. Picture this. You're trying to create a perfectly level surface on someone's head. Sounds straightforward, right? Well, not so fast. A flat top is like attempting to create a perfectly flat table surface, except your material is constantly growing hair that naturally wants to stick up at different angles. The real challenge? It needs to be absolutely horizontal. We're talking spirit level precise here. One slight miscalculation, and you've got a slanted roof instead of a flat top. And don't even get me started on symmetry. The left side needs to mirror the right side exactly, or the whole look falls apart. But here's where it gets really tricky. Different parts of your head have hair growing in different directions and thicknesses. Getting all of that to stand up and be cut to the exact same height? That's like trying to get a group of kindergartners to stand perfectly still in a straight line. And if you mess up, there's no quick fix. Cut too low on one side, and you'll need to level the entire top down to match. It's a game of millimeters where every snip counts. So next time you see someone rocking a perfect flat top, give them and their barber a nod of respect. Because what you're looking at is nothing short of hair architecture.
Enjoying the video, correct? Make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell. Please leave your feedback, hit like, share the content.
8. Hard part with design. Let me tell you about the most nerve-wracking part of being a barber, creating those razor-sharp designs and lineups that everyone's asking for these days. You know those incredible geometric patterns and crisp lines you see on Instagram? Well, they're not just double tap worthy, they're seriously challenging to execute. Think about it like this. Imagine trying to draw a perfect straight line, but now do it with a razor on a curved surface while your canvas can move at any moment. One slight tremor in your hand, one minor miscalculation, and boom, you've got an uneven line that can't be undone. And trust me, there's nothing worse than having to explain to a client why one side of their hairline is higher than the other. The thing about design work is that it's pure artistry meeting precision. You need the steady hands of a surgeon and the creative vision of an artist. And here's the kicker. You can't just erase and start over like you can with a pencil drawing. Once you've taken that hair off, it's gone, and you've got to wait weeks for it to grow back if you mess up. That's why when you find a barber who can nail those clean lines and intricate designs, you've struck gold. Because behind every perfect lineup and flawless design is countless hours of practice and probably quite a few nervous moments. 9. High and tight Recon, military cut. Let me tell you about one of the most challenging haircuts in any barber's career, the high and tight Recon. You might think, hey, it's just a super short military cut, how hard can it be? Well, let me tell you, this is the haircut that separates the rookies from the pros. Picture this. You're working with hair that's basically trimmed down to the skin on the sides and back, with a slightly longer top that's still incredibly short. Sounds simple, right? But here's the catch. When you're dealing with such minimal length, every single move of your clippers is visible. There's absolutely nowhere to hide your mistakes. The biggest challenge? That transition line between the sides and top. Go too high with that fade, and your client looks like they're wearing a bowl cut. Make it uneven and it'll stick out like a sore thumb. And remember, this isn't just any haircut. It's often requested by military personnel who need to meet strict grooming standards. What makes it even trickier is that hair growth patterns become super apparent when the cut is this short. Every cowlick, every slight inconsistency in the natural hairline, they all become glaringly obvious. It's like working under a microscope where precision isn't just preferred, it's absolutely essential. That's why this seemingly simple cut is actually one of the ultimate tests of a barber's skill and attention to detail. 10. Long layered haircut with face framing. You know what's fascinating about long layered haircuts with face framing pieces? They're like creating a masterpiece that moves. As a hairstylist, I can tell you these cuts are both beautiful and challenging, kind of like trying to capture a waterfall in motion. Let me break down why this style is one of the trickiest to master. Imagine you're sculpting, but your material isn't clay. It's living, growing hair that needs to flow naturally. Each layer has to seamlessly blend into the next like waves cascading down. One small miscalculation, and instead of soft, flowing layers, you end up with harsh lines that look like steps cut into the hair. The face framing aspect? That's where things get really interesting. It's like creating a custom picture frame for someone's face. Too heavy and it overwhelms their features. Too light and it loses its impact. You need to consider face shape, hair texture, and even how the client typically styles their hair. The biggest challenge comes when blending these face framing pieces with the rest of the layers. It's a delicate balance, like conducting an orchestra where every section needs to harmonize perfectly. One wrong cut can throw off the entire composition, leaving you with awkward bulk in places where you want softness and movement. But when done right, it's absolutely transformative. That's why mastering this cut is so rewarding, even though it's one of the most challenging styles in hairdressing.